Hi, how's it going? This is Mike, and this is the English Breakthrough for Germans podcast. In this podcast, I aim to help German speakers who feel stuck with their English, to give them an alternative to learning apps, Volkshochschule courses, and help those who feel that their school English wasn't enough by helping them become independent language learners and discussing useful learning strategies. Mir fallen die Worte nicht ein. Das sagen viele meiner Kursteilnehmer. Wenn du das auch manchmal zu deinem Englisch sagst, dann bist du hier genau richtig. My name's Mike. As I said, I'm originally from Australia and I teach both English and German. I've been here in Berlin for a total of 12 years. Apart from German, I've also learned Spanish, Bulgarian, and now French. Okay, let's get started. So in this first episode of the English Breakthrough for Germans podcast, I'm going to give you 4 reasons why I'm starting this podcast. Reason number 1, in Germany, people often don't know how to work on their English. So think about it for a moment. If you have a problem in your life, you usually know what solution you can use to help you with that problem. If you have a problem with your car, you might go to a mechanic. If your flight is cancelled, you look at options to travel by train. If you're going on holiday to Greece and you don't know what to do, you ask your friends who have been there before and you ask them for some tips. So I'd really love for people to know what to do when they realize that they need to do something about their English. I'm not just talking about signing up to a class, going to the Volkshochschule or a class that your company offers you. That's not immediate enough. Yeah. To sign up to a class, it might start in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or even longer. And it might just be once a week. Maybe you need it more intensively than that. People need strategies for learning that they can use at home, alone, right away. And that's where I want to help. So to demonstrate how people don't know how to work on their English, I'm going to tell you a short anecdote. And I hope that this illustrates my point. Just recently, I spent a short weekend in Poland, in Gdansk, for the Easter long weekend. So I was on the train from Gdansk. Gdansk is Danzig in German. So I was traveling from Gdansk to Poznan and then from Poznan to Berlin. So 2 trains. So I was on the train from Gdansk and the train was about to arrive in Poznan. So in Poznan, I would have to get off, change trains, and then get onto another train to Berlin. So at this point, I had been on the train for about 3 hours already. The train was quite full. There were families, children, people speaking different languages, and the carriage had different compartments. Like in Harry Potter, you have the door and then the 6 seats in the compartment. So it was that kind of setup. And I couldn't get a reservation for the train in Poland from Gdansk to Poznan. So I sat down a couple of times if the seat was empty, but then I had to get up again because somebody had a reservation for that seat where I was sitting. So in the end, I had to sit in the aisle way. So in the aisle next to the compartments with the door, there are these seats which fold down from the wall. So I had to sit on one of those seats. When we were about 5 minutes from Poznan, I was waiting in the aisle on the seat. I had my backpack and my suitcase, and a man came up to me, and we had a strange conversation. So the conversation went like this. He said, "You travel by train?" I'm thinking, hang on a second, we are on a train. What does he mean? Does he mean, do you like traveling by train? Do you often travel by train? I was really confused. I didn't know what to say. So after a few seconds, he said it again. "You travel by train?" I then said, "I'm sorry, we are on a train. What do you mean?" And he said, "Oh, you live in Poznan?" I said, "No, I live in Germany." He said, no, you live in Poznan?" I realized he was trying to say, "Are you leaving in Poznan?" I said, "Yes, I'm getting off in Poznan. I'm changing trains." He then said, "Oh, your first time in Poznan?" I was getting a little bit frustrated at this point, And I said, I'm not going to Poznan, I'm going to Germany. I'm just changing trains in Poznan. At this point, he saw I was getting a little frustrated, and he said, I'm sorry, I want to improve my English. But the train was just coming to Poznan, so fortunately or unfortunately, I had to get ready to get off the train, so I didn't continue the conversation. But as you can see from this conversation, he was trying to work on his English, but for me, it wasn't really the best time for him to work on his English, so I didn't talk to him very happily. I also didn't realize that this was the reason that he wanted to talk to me, so I was just confused. I think somebody would have said to him, you just have to go out and speak. Go out and just speak. And I really believe that this advice, just speak, is not the best advice for everyone. The man probably left the conversation confused, thinking, wow, my English is not very good, and might not try to speak English for the next 6 months or so. So I believe that this man is not alone in not knowing what to do and receiving this advice, just speak. So what else could he do, or other people like him, if he wants to improve his English? Of course, you could sign up to a language course, and language courses do give you lots of practice. You get lots of speaking practice, and you might get lots of new language. But language courses don't usually teach you how to learn independently. So you can't keep learning after the course ends. So you learn quite intensively, maybe for a week, if it's a Bildungsurlaubskurs or something, but then the learning stops and you don't know how to learn at home. Because the teachers don't really discuss independent learning strategies in these kinds of classes. But here's the thing. Good language learners don't just learn like magic, even though it seems like it's some kind of talent. What they know how to do is they know how to study at home on their own. So when they do have a conversation in English or another language, they know exactly what to say. So what I want to do is give people alternative ideas for how they can work independently on their language skills. Okay, that was reason number 1. That was quite a long one. The reasons number 2, 3, and 4 are not as long, but here we go. Reason number 2 why I'm starting this podcast. Many Germans say to me, my school English wasn't enough. Mein Schulenglisch reicht nicht. So we just have to think about the situation in school a little bit. Schools are set up so everyone learns the same information. Yeah, so you have 30 students in the classroom, maybe 25, 30, and a teacher stands at the front and helps the students solve maths problems, or they talk about rivers and cities in Germany. The students sit quietly, the teacher speaks, the students ask questions, and the teacher responds. But these situations are not really natural situations for learning language. You know, most situations when we want to speak are one-to-one situations, not 30-to-1. So it doesn't enable students to really develop the interactive language skills that they need. And the other thing is that learning a language is not about knowledge. It's not about knowing information like, eat, ate, eaten, drive, drove, driven. Language learning is a skill, so it involves muscles. It's more like playing a musical instrument or dancing because of this element of muscle memory. So we must have muscle memory if we are going to be using language. Yeah, and you need to train this independently of conversation. So in school, you might learn with vocabulary lists or grammar lists, like der Tisch, the table, die Lampe, the lamp, die Straße, the street. You might do grammar exercises like the man to the cinema last week, and you have to write went, or I a movie with my friend last weekend, and you write I saw a movie with my friend last weekend. So these kinds of things can be tested really easily in a written test, in a quiet written test, but they're not helping you practice speaking to develop and train the muscles that you need to speak fluently. So most schools focus on what can be tested, which is just silent activities. There's not so much speaking testing which takes place. in schools. So they focus on grammar, as I said, vocabulary, reading, comprehension, maybe writing texts as well, writing an email or something like that. So most classrooms don't focus on the sound of the language as much as they should. Language is sound. Text is not language. Text is just a representation of language, of spoken language. So we really, really need to focus on the sound of the language as much as we can. But I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing school teachers. Teachers do the best that they can in the circumstances, but they're really just forced to teach students about language. They don't help you acquire the skill of using language through developing that muscle memory. And too much of the language class takes place in silence. We read silently, we write silently, so our brains are not processing the sound of the language. So we might be thinking in German and translating to and from English. And one other aspect of school is that you have a lot of students who are unmotivated. So it's really, really difficult for for teachers to walk into a classroom and to really prompt students, to get students to engage with the sound of the language in a way that's effective for learning. Students are in school 30 hours a week. They go where they are told to go. In Australia and England, they have to wear uniforms, so they wear what they're told to wear. They behave how they are told to behave. They learn what they are told to learn. They have to concentrate and be quiet when the teachers tell them to be quiet. And I think that, this is a lot for children, a lot for teenagers. Even imagine yourself, as an adult. Imagine if for 30 hours a week, for 13 years, you had to do everything that people told you to do. I think also you would lose focus and you would lose motivation. So schools are really, really not the best places for learning languages. Okay, reason number three why I'm starting this podcast. So reason number one was people don't know what to do when they know they need to work on their English. Number two was school English, or people say that my school English wasn't enough. And number three now is that language learning apps make us think we're learning, but we're not. So almost every day I hear from people who are using apps like Duolingo and other services maybe that are online. But I do not believe that these are effective. So language apps are great at keeping you going with a streak. You get a little notification saying, have you done your language learning today? But they're not really pedagogically effective. Have you ever wondered why Duolingo uses random silly sentences, but why this idea of silly sentences is not used anywhere else? It's because it's not consistent with how languages are learned. So when we learn languages, we have to connect. By the way, what I mean by silly sentences is when I was using Duolingo years and years ago, I had a sentence like, the monkey drinks the milk. Okay, so this really strange sentence. It's not a natural sentence. So when we learn languages, we have to connect language or the sound of that language to its context. Yeah. So if I say, for example, excuse me, do you have a table for two? The sound of that sentence, hopefully, is immediately associated to a restaurant. So we have it connected to the context. So because language doesn't exist as language doesn't exist as text in our brains, it exists as sound. We have to connect that sound to the context. So we really need to be concentrating when we're studying. And also silent study is not useful for us. So it's very difficult to connect that sentence to any kind of context. And two, we usually do it in silence as well. So because we're not able to activate the context in our minds, think again about that sentence, the monkey drinks the milk. The language is not connected to my reality. So if I say, excuse me, do you have a table for two? I immediately think of the last time that I went to a restaurant. But when I hear a sentence like, the monkey drinks the milk, there's no realistic context in my world that I can imagine in which somebody says that sentence. So my brain can't connect it to anything, and this sentence is completely lost. Just recently, I heard somebody using an app, and one of the sentences was, "The nun jumps from the roof of the monastery." I'll repeat it for you, see if you can understand it. The nun jumps from the roof of the monastery. So in German, that would be, Die Nonne springt vom Dach des Klosters. What? We really just don't need a sentence like that. Okay, so that was reason number 3. Language apps make us think we're learning, but we're not. It's an illusion. And reason number 4 why I'm starting this podcast, I like the medium. Yeah, podcasts are a great medium. So listening to a podcast regularly, 1, it can be fun. 2, it can get you used to a specific speaker. So I hope that maybe, actually, I've had students tell me that they get used to the way that I speak after a while. And you get to know the speaker as well. And I think that that can really help you with your learning. So I would like to give my learners the opportunity to stay with me in this form of a podcast, and then they can hopefully also pick up some useful tips and strategies along the way. And I really like storytelling. I forgot to mention that. I like anecdotes. I think that anecdotes and storytelling is a really key part of successful language learning. So I'm going to always try to include at least one anecdote in each podcast episode. So similar to the anecdote that I told you before about the man on the train. Okay, so there you have it. That's 4 reasons why I'm starting this podcast. So once again, let's just do a little bit of a recap. Reason number 1 was, here it is. Just scrolling back. God, it's long. In Germany, people often don't know how to work on their English. So I want to help people know what to do with their English when they get stuck. Many Germans say to me, my school English wasn't enough. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3, language learning apps make us think we're learning, but we're not. And reason number 4, why I'm starting this podcast, I like the medium. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. It's sunny outside, so I might go outside and enjoy the sun. So thank you very much for listening to the end. If you enjoyed the episode, think about leaving a review or sharing it. And I hope that you'll join me next time for English Breakthrough for Germans podcast. Thank you very much. See you later.